and local trade will be hoping for more gains today. The JSE closing slightly strong on Monday, with global markets mixed as investors look ahead to meetings of the United States Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank and the Bank of England this week. The head of equity research at FNB Wealth and Investments is Chantal Marx, and she joins us now for a quick markets wrap this morning. Chantal, good morning to you. Let's begin with the overview of how the markets are faring this morning.
Well, markets have opened quite strongly positive this morning, and most of the major sectors are in the green at the moment. It follows on from a stronger close on Wall Street and some strength in the Asian Pacific markets as well. And this is ahead of the US CPI print today, where investors are a little bit concerned that inflation could have ticked up a little bit. But the base case is that even if there's an upward surprise in CPI in the US today, it won't make a difference to what the Fed does tomorrow, which is expected to keep rates on hold.
Let's talk commodities. Oil prices ticking up on Tuesday as investors playing cautious ahead of the key interest rates decisions, and you include in that the inflation data releases. Help us make sense of the factors influencing trade there.
Yeah, so the oil price story is very interesting at the moment because ultimately oil prices are determined by expected supply in oil, so how much is going to be produced, and then expected demand, so how much oil is going to be utilized by consumers and businesses and economies globally. And what we have at the moment is supply being more than demand, and that's why we've seen downward pressure on oil. Now, we've seen some supply cuts come through, or expected supply cuts come through from OPEC+, but it hasn't been enough to really counter the mood globally that in the near term economic activity is going to be under pressure, so demand is going to be under pressure as well. I do think we're coming closer to a base in the oil price where the oil price is more or less in balance, but it's a difficult one to call, and we'll probably see it oscillate around these levels until we get more clarity around the demand picture at least, because for supply for the moment we know what's going on.
Let's talk company news. Rand Merchant Bank Holdings publishing a trading statement. Talk us through exactly what that statement is highlighting.
Yes, so that trading statement came out yesterday, showing a very sharp reduction in the net asset value of that business. Rand Merchant Investment Holdings used to hold quite a few stakes in a few companies, including First Rand, but it is winding up that structure. And what it's doing is it is selling the underlying assets, and then when it gets the cash, it distributes it to shareholders. So the reason the net asset value is down quite sharply is because they made a very big special dividend payment at the end of last year. If you exclude that, the net asset value actually would have probably increased. So why did it increase? The underlying holdings, the valuations of the underlying holdings increased. So we'll have to have more detail from the company in the full set of results. But as I said, this vehicle is continuing to wind up. They're going to continue to sell everything out of it, and eventually it won't exist.
Let's conclude with Harmony Gold beefing up its broad-based black economic empowerment credentials by allocating preferential shares to a community trust that will oversee the empowerment of the host communities at its Mponeng mine. Talk us through those developments.
Yes, so there's two transactions. One relates to the community trust and one relates to the employee share ownership or participation scheme. And both of it relates to the acquisition of Anglo Gold Ashanti's mines that are based in South Africa in 2020. So Harmony is effectively just making the circle bigger and making sure that their community trust as well as their employee share ownership scheme covers the employees and the communities affected by that operation as well. The net impact is going to be about a 5% negative impact on earnings. But I think that ultimately this is something that the company has to do. You have to include all stakeholders in your broad-based Black economic empowerment plans.
Chantal Marx, thank you very much for that markets update. Head of Equity Research at FNB Wealth.